Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Dr. Joe Salustio back with you on another episode. We're going to talk to another amazing guest. He's got a more professional podcast setup than I have. This is getting increasingly more frequent, I've noticed lately. It was, in fact, maybe 2 episodes ago before this, the person I interviewed had a whole studio. I'm going, what is happening? I'm in my basement. I've scratched together pieces of metal and standing things on pipes and with magnets and cords everywhere. And then I interview my guest today. I swear it looks like he stepped out of a magazine in his podcast studio. Ladies and gentlemen, let's bring him to the microphone right now. Here he is. He's Rob Towner. He's the Associate Vice President for Edge at Northeastern University. Rob, welcome in your amazing podcast studio to the EdUp Experience. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me. Super excited to be here today.
True or false, I said that your studio looks fake. It looks like a fake background, but in fact, you're telling me it's real.
All real. Everything here is real, but it does look pretty fake. It's put together very, very nicely. My studio team does a fantastic job with setting up all of our sets, and it's been absolutely great.
Yeah, I would like to contract them out to come to my basement and help me here, because if you look behind me, it would be no, I can't even take my background off. But we're here to talk about you, Rob, and the work that you're doing at Northeastern University. First of all, tell us. Let's just assume there's somebody that hasn't heard of Northeastern, and let's just go there. Tell us about Northeastern University. Who do you serve? How do you serve them? And then we'll talk about Edge.
If you're finding value in these conversations, consider supporting Elvin and Joe. As a supporter, you'll get early ad-free access, plus exclusive leadership-focused content. It's only $5.99 a month or $44.99 a year. You can also donate or even gift a subscription to a colleague at edupexperience.com. That's edupexperience.com.
Yeah, so Northeastern is an R1 university with a flagship campus located out of Boston. We have campuses all throughout the U.S., a couple campuses in Canada, and 1 campus in the U.K. We do undergrad, graduate, and PhD education. I specifically focus on the digital arm of the university, as well as our online corporate learning. So EDGE stands for Experiential Digital Global Education, and that is what I oversee as part of my role here at the university.
Yeah, so of course Northeastern, I would say, is a very well-known university. Amazing reputation. Lots of graduates doing amazing things that have gone Northeastern. So, I mean, I think the reputation of the university is definitely there. We are in an interesting time in higher education, as we see. And I would say, I think it's almost depending on who you talk to or what study you look at. People are interested in higher ed, or there's declining interest in higher ed. Then next report. 85% say they'll go to education, and then this report says people don't want higher ed, and it's very confusing. What are you seeing out there among students, among corporate partners, as we talk about Edge, and what's interest like?
Yeah, so I think it's well known, similar to what you said. I've seen a lot of the same studies about non-consumption growing from a lot of high school students and where people are with higher ed and what is the value prop of higher ed. And specifically in the area that I work at within graduate and corporate upskilling, there's a lot of questions of what is the ROI to me as a learner, and how do I make sure that if I'm going to invest in furthering my education, it's going to help my career out. And so what we've really done is figure out how do we plug in and change the models that existed. I like to say pre-COVID education looks a lot different than post-COVID education. And whether it's the growth of AI, the digital transformation, specifically here in North America, if we look at more domestic style students, the way that their careers are formed, the way that they're working, the way that they're doing work with others is all so much different that the skill sets they need are so much different. We no longer see the traditional career ladder that many of our students used to climb. It's much more of a career lattice now, where people hop into very different roles, take lateral moves. They're trying to upskill themselves. They're trying to find affordable education that will actually impact their career. And so what I'm seeing on the domestic online side of education, at least within the country, is people are looking for a way where I don't have to leave my job. I don't have to uproot my family. I don't have to go move to a place to do education. How can I continue to work for my employer and upskill myself at the same point in time? And what we do here at the university is kind of break that out into 2 different channels. You can be a B2C learner who comes and finds one of our program and just looks to grow in that way. And then the other thing we do is we work directly with the company so that their employees are put through a customized program where everyone's not having to learn the same thing. You know, I always say corporate finance can be a very generic topic.
Yeah.
And how you apply that within a specific company can look so much different. You know, one of our companies that we work with, PwC, applies it very differently than another company I work with, like the Mayo Clinic. So learning the concepts, the debits, the credits, the math are the same in both those classes, but the application of how they're supposed to employ it at their work as an employee can look so much different. So what we're really trying to do here in Edge is figure out how do we continue to bring in that customized corporate learning aspect to each and every class, where the corporation is seeing the value and the ROI right away. I mean, companies have been sponsoring higher education forever as part of tuition benefit and all that. But I really think the world is changing. It used to be all via articulation agreements. You send me X amount of students, I get Y percentage discount on the education. And there's just not a lot of demand for that, and that's not where the market is anymore. And now it's about how do you actually embed yourself as a talent management partner with a B2B or a corporate entity to not be just an education provider, but part of their talent management system.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
It's harder to retain talent. I mean, let's talk about the employer perspective. Well, actually, let's take a step back. Experiential and digital graduate education. I got that right or no? I missed it.
Global education. You were close. We do mostly graduate, but it is global education. Global
education. This initiative sounds like a separate initiative, right? So is it renamed and branded the way it is because you needed some level of autonomy to break away from the machine that is Northeastern to say, hey, we got to do things a little bit differently. We need to rebrand this. We need to look at things differently, create some separation from what already exists. What's the reason for that? That change, that rebranding of what many universities think they do, but maybe don't do that well.
Yes, you're 100% spot on with why the decision was made, right? Northeastern is an institution where much of the university is built around the traditional 4-year undergrad experience. As you talked about, Northeastern, very prestigious school, co-op school, well known for many different things around experiential learning. But online was not an area that they had really grown or invested a lot in. So the creation of Edge was intentionally done as an agnostic unit. I don't work with any college individually. It's all about how do we bring the right content together. I report directly up through the chancellor's office. And what we're really focused on is what do people need in terms of online content instead of saying, oh, we only offer online business degrees or we only offer online engineering degrees. We have a university of interdisciplinary programs where we're able to take content from various different colleges, plug it together into a credential so that a learner isn't just getting all engineering content, isn't getting all business, computer science, whatever it might be. They're getting that something that actually has a real job outcome and builds them up for success.
Amazing.
I love that you said that because I think that's a lesson for a lot of universities where what you just said, that we're after what the student needs, not offering them what we already have, and that's common, right? Well, faculty come and say, well, we've got this degree, we've got this thing, non-credit credential, whatever it is, and we want to give it to you to offer to these students. And sometimes it's like, wow, the students don't want that. They don't want it. They want this other thing because the employer is demanding a different set of skills. Or, AI is just a great example because it's making us all evolve faster. That responsiveness in a unit like you have is critical to serve an employer who is now wondering, how do I keep people, right? How do I keep people here? And people want to stay, I think, in their jobs. You hear that part about people are going to go to 15 jobs in their life, however many it is. How do you get back to that? I was at the same place for 30 years, and I think it's some of the onus is on the employer to say, we're going to offer you this lifetime of learning, and it makes you not want to look elsewhere. That was a lot. I'm sort of rambling a little bit, but that separate unit and responsiveness to the employer is going to be really important.
Agreed 100%. And you're right. I think employee retention, especially in certain industries, we have several healthcare partnerships. Look at the, nursing shortage that exists in this country today. Yep. And how important it is to keep clinical workers happy and where they want to be because there is such a shortage of roles that are out there. We know and studies have shown that education is something that people do gravitate towards. And you know what they don't necessarily want? An employer-based education program. I don't want to go to X university, whatever my employee is called. I want to get a credential that will provide me value not only today, but in the future of my career as well. So we see a lot of the employees happy that their employer is sponsoring them to go out and get education and make themselves better and to continue to grow in their career. And yeah, it definitely leads to higher retention without a doubt.
epic.
How does it work? You just line up employers and they just go, me, I'll do this. I mean, do you have to convince them? Are they looking for the creation of a program that's going to engage their employees? Tell me how it typically would work from ground up.
Yeah, so in a normal first conversation, the biggest fear, as I'm sure you can imagine on the employer side, is always, what is this going to cost me? Nobody wants to go find new money that exists out there today. It's very difficult for everybody. So the number one fear when you start off any conversation around a higher education partnership is, what in the world is this going to cost me and how am I going to pay for it? So what I normally like to first start by doing is, as I told you before, kind of flip the model on its head and say, okay, what if you didn't have to go find any new money to make this work? You already give out tuition reimbursement dollars. How can we work within that subset of money that you're already spending as a company? Tuition reimbursement is one place within a company that many companies are spending millions and millions of dollars and cannot control any of the outcomes. Yep. If you ask a CHRO, where else in your company do you invest millions of dollars where you have zero control of what the outcomes are? The answer is normally nowhere. So that normally kind of opens up the conversation at the beginning of, hey, you have a tuition reimbursement problem. And I think anybody who goes out there and does an audit of the money they're spending on tuition reimbursement, all the companies I've worked with have been shocked to see it's the same schools that it tends to be, which are the most low-cost schools. And I don't fault the employees. They're trying to get the most bang for their buck that they can out of their, whatever their tuition reimbursement allotment is. And they're not able to control what any of the outcomes of that program are. Those schools aren't coming to them and saying, hey, you have a bunch of people doing MBAs, or you have a bunch of people doing, engineering degrees, whatever it might be. And you can actually decide how to shape the outcomes to what your future workforce needs are. Those conversations aren't happening. So what I have to normally go in and do is educate them that you probably have a tuition reimbursement problem. You probably have some kind of skills gap within your organization. That's much more known by the HR professionals and people that I'm discussing. And then the conversation becomes, how do we take that money you're already spending, control some outcomes, customize what this program can look like, where you all can take back the power of controlling, all right, I'm sending somebody to Northeastern University to do this program, and I know what these outcomes are going to be. But with the Mayo Clinic, they have a career investment program we partnered with, where these employees know this is a direct correlation of the digital transformation that's taking place in healthcare. Every course they're in might have a Mayo Spotlight video talking about how to apply the content, Mayo-specific case studies, a Mayo innovation class. If it's working with Advocate Health, it's more about, for them, they have a podcast series, funny enough, like we're doing now, which is all about how to apply the concepts from the classroom. So we're putting podcast episodes in that course where if you're learning about healthcare operations, you can hear the COO say, hey, this is how you should be thinking about operations within Advocate Health. So that customized piece is so unique to employers and something they haven't thought of before that there is a lot of educating up front, but there's a lot of returns on the back. And I think we're just starting to kind of crack this nut of what it can be in the market. We've made a pivot to this talent management strategy at Northeastern about 2 years ago. And what we're really trying to focus on is actually showing that ROI and outcomes to employers longer term. We've been able to renew our employers and keep corporate employers in our ecosystem. And as we track what these results are as learners go through, are you actually able to now show, hey, I'm getting this much more efficiency out of my employees. I'm getting this much more effectiveness out of my employees. I had this hard to fill role that needed these specialized skills. Now I have people who get them. I don't have to go post and wait 50 days to fill a job role for a hard to fill role. I have the right talent that I've just upskilled myself here.
Does the employer relish more control? Do they want to co-create this curriculum? They relish the control of saying, hey, look, yeah, if we get some people in this program, we're going to have better skilled employees, and maybe some of them will leave, but if we keep them for a little bit longer, we've already got better ROI. So why not do it? Do they relish that control, or are they scared of it, that it's going to put stress and pressure on their own operations, and maybe they don't have the bandwidth to do it?
I think everybody relishes the idea of it, and the execution of it can always be a different story, right? Yeah. Trying to schedule with executives to get them into the studio or to film them or to do stuff is always more challenging than you think in the moment when you make that deal. Everybody's all jazzed up, excited, like we're going to get you. Yeah, get your people coming in, doing this, all that. And then when it's like, hey, we actually need a 4-hour block of your chief data officer's time to go film the customized piece of this class, the scheduling of that can be challenging. I won't lie. It isn't an easy thing to do. So I think they relish the excitement, the idea, the option value. And then when it's time to actually perform, it is a lift on their side. And that's what we always tell them when they say, how quickly can you stand up a customized program? The biggest barrier is normally the employer's time. How much time can you actually give us to customize it? Because I can't go make an advocate specific course. I don't have all that data and information that you have that we need to have in the course. So how do you make yourself more available to do those types of things?
Yeah, that's good. It's just a good call out, because we always talk about, I and many in higher ed talk about how slow the industry is. I mean, it's just slow to change, slow to adapt, can't get anything done, take a while. But we do forget, like, even when you're trying to be innovative in a situation where you're going to go create curriculum with an employer, that you then depend 50% of it, or however what percentage is dependent on the employer, who has to have the resources to do it. It's not like they've got 40 people sitting around ready to create curriculum, right? They're going, wait a minute, how do we do this? Who's the best person? How many resources do we have? How much time do we have? Even if higher ed wants to move fast and co-create something, we have to depend on somebody else to do it. We don't talk about that as much. We only talk about it in a one-sided fashion, that higher ed's slow. But you're a fast-moving department, and isn't that right?
I mean, yeah, 100%. And I think that even just educating people on what higher ed can do. One of the biggest things that we've moved to with our, corporate partners is performance-based admissions. No longer do I have to wait for your employees to go track down their old transcripts, their letters of recommendation, all their materials to submit an application. For our corporate programs, the learners come in, they take the first 2 classes. As long as they get a B or better in those first 2 classes, they're in. So you can start learning right away and do these things. And that's an education piece where people don't think of that as a higher ed aspect and something that exists within higher ed, but it's 100% something that is doable. And I would argue is something that all institutions must do to be effective in the B2B space. Because if you're going to go land a corporate client, imagine, and I've seen this happen as ways in my past work experience of why deals haven't worked out. Imagine 50 people go apply to a program and HR is all excited to sponsor it and all these things are in place, and then 20 of them don't get in. Okay, well, now I just told these people they were sponsored to go to this school and I was all excited, and now that's kind of a bummer and everyone's a little bit upset. So creating performance-based admissions creates a path that everybody feels is fair, where if I tell HR, look, they have to get a B or better in order to move forward in the program, and HR normally says we only reimburse for Bs or better or whatever it might be at their company. So everybody puts us on a fair playing field and we can find ways to speed it up. But I mean, I think there's a lot of things that employers don't know to ask for in higher ed, and we get this reputation for always just being slow.
So good. That is so good, and it's so right on. And a big part of that too is an understanding of the financial implications on both sides. And so that does take an investment from Northeastern to create something. Do you front end it? Do you say, okay, we're going to invest all this money to create something? Or are you using the tax benefit, the 5250, or other, getting some commitment? Hey, look, if you're going to have 10 people go through this program, we're willing, you're going to pay us directly or whatever, however you do it, and we're going to stand up this program, but you've got to guarantee enough students go through it, or at least give us the possibility that enough students are going to go through it.
Yeah, so what we look for is a minimum commitment from our employers, so that way they don't have to fund it up front. Because yes, there is an investment to customize these programs. And, I have a team that works on gorgeous studios like the one I'm sitting in now that bring in faculty and experts and put together that customized content. Now, with that being said, as long as we can get a right commitment and make the financials work out, we can all be happy and recuperate our cost, and they can, repurpose money they were already spending in their tuition reimbursement and all these things. And from our perspective, that's more important to us than what the initial investment is up front. A consistent long-term partnership with a great company yields so many more benefits than just being a corporate learning partner. And that's why I said, we've really tried to change that model to being a talent management partner. We are also a co-op institution. Some of these B2B deals that we started now do co-ops with our undergrads here at Northeastern. Some of the other opportunities can exist around research at the university with the company. It's never just one program, one time. I'm thinking about how do you come into the Northeastern ecosystem? And yes, we can upskill your talent and we can get you where you want, but we also have a great pipeline of new talent ready for you. We have a hiring consortium that we've put together with our online programs where our students are able to engage with employers. If you're just a B2C learner in a Northeastern program, some of these B2B partners we have also come in and hire those people into their company. So there's so many different values that come out of a true partnership with a B2B company from a talent management perspective. It's never just about the one education deal or how it's framed. And that's why I'm not sitting here telling people, oh, you need to invest all this money and time and everything up front to build the content. We'll take care of building the content. Let's work together on what the partnership looks like. And one of the really unique aspects of this many times is when we build that content, it's in the 4-credit course, and there's a set number of students that are going through that, but we give that content to the company to use company-wide. What we put together with Advocate Health, yes, there's a group of 125 people going through our program with us right now, but they can give it to all 60,000 or, whatever their number is of employees they have, and they can put it as part of their onboarding. They can put it as part of how they go through things, and it just allows them to become content experts in this space as well and get to hold content on their side. Why not partner with a university who's already producing content and then find a way to repurpose that?
Bullseye. I think this is I've talked about this on the podcast before. I think there's a opportunity within the industry, one that we hear about, we talk about it, but if you think about the number of undergraduates that go out and go to a different institution for their graduate degree. I mean, I'm a prime example. I've talked about it on the podcast a million times. I have 3 degrees, and they're from 3 separate universities. And I can't tell you that I remember going to my master's degree and having over that time period. Now I was an adult learner, 10 years. I don't know how many years had passed since my undergraduate, more than 10. But I don't know that I remember getting anything from my undergraduate university or any kind of communication that said, go for your graduate degree here. But if we're looking at lifelong learning, if we're an institution and we're going to say we provide lifelong learning, we have to create the infrastructure, the foundation to be able to offer lifelong learning, right? So the idea here, I'm probably taking words out of your mouth, is somebody graduates through a co-op program at Northeastern University, gets a job, all of a sudden is working for a company that provides tuition reimbursement and is going through the EDGE program, right?
Support the podcast trusted by higher ed leaders. Get early, ad-free access and exclusive leadership content by supporting Elvin and Joe for only $5.99 a month or $44.99 a year. You can also donate or gift a subscription at edupexperience.com. That's edupexperience.com.
100%. That's the perfect model. And we understand not everyone's going to, I can't be B2B partners with everybody as much as I would love to be. They don't all want to be partners with me. But even for some of our students who go to some of those other companies we don't work with, what we've even done as part of EDGE is launch what we call the Digital Upskilling Hub. So we have a group of graduate certificates that are all priced at $52.50, specifically going after our alumni and people who have interacted. Like, if you're going to spend your tuition benefits somewhere, why not come back and spend it with Northeastern where you've already gone to school? Now you might have worked 2-3 years. You might be up there needing the new AI education or needing new business education or data analytics, whatever it is. We have an in-demand skill-based cert for you to do and use your tuition dollars and stay in the Northeastern ecosystem. And that's the other pathway we can go. So that's one option we have. And then, yes, the ideal scenario is, hey, you graduate from a co-op. We already work with that partner. We have a customized program for you to continue going up.
It's good to hear that because I have a tuition reimbursement, a tuition benefit, but I don't want to go take a giant program somewhere. I just want to take one thing per year for a short term and use my benefits. So I don't lose it because you do. It's a use it or lose it thing with your employer. Typically, it's going to cycle every year. And if I'm not using it over this period of time, I'm not getting any benefits. So give me a bunch of things that I can take with my money as one-offs. And you're saying that's a possibility as another pathway.
100%. And like you had said before, I think many institutions struggle with lifelong learning. I don't think it's a new thing in higher ed because in order to do lifelong learning well, you need to have flexible digital good education, right? Yeah. And you need to have things like performance-based admissions. Your old alumni don't want to go ask people for letters of recommendation. They don't want to write an essay of why they want to do this program. Give them an easy, we actually have something called the FAST app. Here's a fast application. Fill out this little one-page thing, pick your 2 courses, you're in, there you go. You're good to go. Go get good grades and be successful in them. So what we've really tried to focus is put yourself in a working professional's shoes. What are they looking for? What do you want? We all know what an Amazon shopping experience is like. We've all shopped on Amazon. We want fewest clicks possible, easy transaction, utilize money that my employer's already given me, as you said, use it or lose it, I need to spend it. Boom, I can get a product from a school that I went to and I have some affinity towards. And then the next time when I need it the next year, oh, great, I can come back to that same place again. I already know what that process looks like.
It's funny you bring up letters of recommendation. I will tell you, and I'm using a lot of personal stories here, but they resonate with the way you've designed. Going back to my graduate degree, I had been a VP at a higher ed institution for 12 years. I had 380 employees. I was doing tons of HR work. I had a huge multi-million-dollar budget. And I remember going to one institution where I was going to go get my graduate degree that I did not go to, required 3 letters of recommendation. And I said, I'm an adult learner. I'm going to write myself the letter of recommendation and probably put somebody else's name on it. No, I won't do that. I had the thought though. But I'm like, really? Do I need to? It sort of almost feels offensive to me that I have to go to some person who probably doesn't have a graduate degree in the ecosystem I was in to ask for a letter of recommendation. I said, why do I need that? I've been doing this job forever. I've had these great business results. I'm running budgets probably bigger than the school's budget. Why do I have to do that? Why can't I just get in on the merit of my work? And that bothered me. And I didn't go to that school. I went somewhere that said, you don't need letters of recommendation. You're a professional.
100%. And even as a professional, think about what we're asking people to do when we ask for things like that. Go burn professional capital that you might have built up at work. You want to go ask your boss for a favor. Is the favor you want to ask your boss for really a letter of recommendation? No, I think there's a lot of other things you'd rather ask for.
Yeah, it's a raise. That's what I want. No, you're right. And it's almost can be like a tail between your legs moment. You're a professional. You've got other professionals. Like, can you write me a letter? I mean, it's just a funny question to be asking if you're high enough up on a totem pole, so to speak. So I like that learner perspective that you're bringing in. I'm an adult learner. How is the adult learner changing? What have you been seeing over the last couple of years? And you talked about post-COVID. What do we want as adult learners? And are our preferences evolving?
Yeah, I think I've noticed a major shift even in the last couple years. Like, obviously, we want ease of access. We all want that. Like I talked about, an easy shopping, e-commerce is what we expect type experience. We've been conditioned to that through all the online shopping and everything we all do. I think the other thing is knowing that we like the option of having synchronous opportunities, in-person events, all those things. But we really might attend them at an extremely low rate. But it sounds really good when you talk about a program like, oh, there's a live lecture with a faculty I can attend once a week. And then when you're actually in the program, you're like, thank God that's recorded because I really don't want to be there every single week.
It's good to know that it happened, but I'm not going to be available for it, right?
Right. And that's what we see a lot of people doing is they change their preferences based on in-the-moment scenarios, and people are busy and have life circumstances and different things pop up, which I totally respect and understand. And so what they want is option value. And that option value can be broken down in so many different things. The option value to go to a live class, the option value to engage with an employer, the option value to have a networking experience with other students. But it's also the option value sometimes of, do I even want credit for this course? Do I want the option value to stack this one course into a graduate certificate? Do I want the option value to stack that certificate into a degree? That's really what it comes down to, is we're providing learners with option value and an ease of access and opportunity to get some of the world's best education here at Northeastern. And that's what's beginning to fundamentally change how we interact with adult working professionals.
You brought up a keyword, stackables. If I'm going back and I'm that person that says, I'm not ready for a big program, I just want to take these one-offs for a while. I take 2 or 3 of these things. Are they in oblivion somewhere, or can I take them and put them towards something?
Yeah, it's all about putting them towards something. And I think stackability is something that every institution talks about in the digital space. It's obviously not unique here to Northeastern. But the biggest thing is, how does the stackability work and how easy is it for a learner to understand? Because we're both in the higher ed landscape. We understand stackability, the concept of small bites that stack up into something bigger. But, Joe Schmo off the street who's working, he might have never thought of stackability. He just knows about courses, degrees. This is how my education was. So how do I show them, like, hey, you can take this very easy first starting point and eventually get all the way up to this MBA degree if you wanted to, or you could just be done after that starting point. And there's no judgment. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, the education and lifelong learning is about how do you consume it and how are you able to apply it. And if you're seeing value, you'll continue to do that. And when the value tapers off, that's probably when you're going to be done. So hopefully there's a good exit credential for you at that point in time.
How do you deal with like PLA or credit for prior learning? I mean, any adult learner is going to come in and go, well, I've done this. We all think, all of the adult learners in the history of learning think that everything we've done should amass for the most of the credit that any degree offers, which of course is not the case. But we do think that going in, we have the delusions of grandeur. But there is something to be said for honoring the past experiences that we have in some way. What are you doing for CPL, PLA, and how that works at Edge?
Yeah, so we have PLA with some of our programs here in Edge, and the biggest thing that I try to tell people is if you've already have a mastery level of a skill, it's not that I think you should be like not having to take this part of the education or to your part, like, oh, I already should earn this degree because I know how to do this. No, that's not what we're saying. But I also don't want to charge learners to relearn something they already understand and know how to do. So if you can show that you have a mastery level of that education, like in our engineering program, you could do a couple of our Coursera MOOCs that are out there from our engineering department and then take an examination. And if you are able to show you actually mastered that concept, even in a MOOC learning scenario, great. If you're admitted into the program, we'll make sure you get the credit for that class towards your degree progress. And that's a new thing we're launching this upcoming fall because, to your point, that is something that adult learners want. They want to feel respected for the education they have, and nobody wants to pay for something they think they already know. And I can identify with that as an adult working professional myself. If I went into a program and the first course I was about to take was on something I do every day at work, I'd be like, man, I can't believe I'm paying to take this when I just go to work every day and do it. So what we have to do as an institution is ensure that if they've really mastered a skill, why are we in the business of trying to recharge them to sit through a course just because an instructor leads it? How can we get them credit for that, or how can we move them down a different pathway? In our project management cert, there's like an intro start for people who haven't done a lot of project management. But if you have a bunch of work experience, great. Let's get you into more fun classes so you're not paying to take the intro level ones. You still need to do the credits. You're still doing the work. But how do we ensure that you're taking the courses that best align and are new learning for you, and you're not sitting there just listening to something on repeat?
It's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
I love it. It's one of my favorite quotes ever because it's like if you want to talk about prior learning assessment, that's the movie quote, right? It's not what you know, it's what you think, what you can prove. And one of the proof points of being a adult-friendly institution or having adult-friendly programs or foundation is always keeping fresh on what the adult learner wants. What are you doing to keep yourself always fresh? Because I think, and you know this, if you've worked in higher ed for a while, sometimes you get complacent and you're like, well, this is the way we've designed the program and, they've got to follow this pathway. But it's almost like you have to enroll in your own school, or you have to try to separate yourself from the policy and separate yourself from the path and go, would I do this? And that's hard to do sometimes when you're in the middle of it 24/7. How do you stay fresh?
Yeah, and I mean, to your point, Joe, you're going to tell me that faculty don't fall into their habits and want to teach the same thing all the time. I've never seen that before. So if we're going to talk about how this works, yes, I mean, it's not only an education of the business unit, the area that we work within, the different processes at the university, whether that be admissions, billing, all that. It's also the faculty. They have to understand this is a different learner, and you can't do what you've done every single time before. If I look at our Advocate Health program, we have an average of over 15 years of work experience from the employees that are doing that program. They don't care what you go in person and teach to somebody who's never worked more than 5 years in your life. Like, that is another whole piece of the education if you're going to go after the adult working professional, is ensuring that the faculty are bought in and they're looking at different ways of doing things. And, even when I see the faculties look when we bring them into the studio and the different spaces we have for the first time, it's like, hey, I maybe have never been on camera. I've never been on a studio set like this. I've never delivered a lecture to a group of people in this different, digital transformation way. Great. Let's get you upskilled on that. And we have talented professionals throughout our organization who are dedicated to making sure that process is as seamless as possible for the faculty member, because once they get comfortable and they enjoy playing around with the different technologies, that's where you really see them say, okay, now I get it. Now this is how I would want to do something. Now let me think of this video I watched the other day. Now that I'm having to be on video, I'm watching other faculty on video and I'm seeing what they do that's good and that I want to take over here to these learners.
How long has Edge been, when was it created? How long has it been going on for? And what's success looking like for you?
Yeah, so Edge really started, I believe, in 2020. I was not here at the time, but I think that's when the unit really got kicked off. And it's been growing over the last 5 years, and we've begun to see that real hockey stick growth to our online programs over these last few years. You know how anything is. When you're building a new program, cohort 1 is not going to enroll you thousands of students. I don't care who you are or what institution you are out there. That's just not the way online programs grow and run. But we're starting to see a lot of the fruits of the labor now at this point in time. We've really kind of doubled down on our digital strategy. We've decided what are going to be Northeastern's online differentiators and have invested in those types of things and those bets as an institution, knowing that that's what's going to give us the success we're looking for moving forward. And, you know, as the market continues to shift, things like interdisciplinary programs, as I talked about earlier, that's a huge deal now to the institution of, hey, you know what? You don't just need a business program. You don't just need a computer science program or an engineering program. You need something with a little bit of all flavors. And our AI certificate that we offer, each course is from a completely different college. All 4 courses, different colleges across the board, because AI is not the same everywhere. And we need to expose you to everything from the ethics and responsible side of it all the way to the business application of it. So I think those types of things and those decisions have really helped the institution move in the right direction. And then on the B2B side, the decision to double down of being a talent management partner and not just trying to sign articulation agreements of you send me 5 students, you send me 10 students, whatever it is really where we've seen us define a strategy in corporate education and be able to go after it.
Let me ask you a good marketing question. The B2C and B2B models of marketing are very different. The B2C model is so hard when you're doing anything continuing education-wise because there's just no, I hate to say there's no money in it, but there isn't. I mean, your marketing costs will far outweigh any of the financial benefit that you gain unless you're seeing so many of those non-credit students uplift into a degree program, which, yes, you'll get some, but you're going to get at the mass that you want. So you've really got to balance that B2C and B2B marketing efforts. How do you balance? Do you think, are you track, are you chunking out your spend? Are you really focusing on B2B because that's where the people are gathered, so to speak? Can you give me a little insight on the marketing side?
Yeah. So obviously the sweetest part about any B2B deal is I don't spend $1 on marketing. The employer has all the employees. They go out there and more often than not, if they set a number, when we worked with Advocate Health, we said, hey, they said, we'll send you 125 people to start with. Over 700 signed up. So it's not like I had to worry about a funnel and conversions and all those things. So that's really great on the B2B side.
Let's go.
On the B2C side, to your point, you have to diversify. And where I'm at an institution, I could never just find one partner, right? So I work with a Coursera, I work with an EAB, I have my own in-house team that I work with throughout our enrollment management that does marketing. And you find out what pockets of spends are working and who does what best. Because what I have yet to find out there in the higher education space is a one-stop solution for everything we're looking to do. Mm-hmm. So from my perspective, it's about how do I find the right partners to align with the right product and really make it more of a product strategy than a marketing strategy. And that's seen a lot of success from our side of things. What's
growth look like? More programs, maximizing enrollment in the programs that you already have, a little bit of both. What's the strategy and where are you headed?
I think it's not only about more programs, but it's a diversification of products that we offer in the market, because I don't know. Let's take AI for an example, one of the most popular things everybody likes to talk about. Is there a demand for an applied AI master's degree? Is there a demand for only a course? Is it a certificate? Is the idea that in the next 3 to 5 years, every single college course is just going to have AI embedded in it, so nobody needs AI specific type education? So there's a lot from my side about how do we productize the stuff that we're doing and that we know working professionals are looking for in the best way as a university, but also how do we reuse content to do these mix and matches, right? I have an entire online MBA built, But there's other times where I just need one or two of those classes and then combine it with one or two of these other things. So it's not only about the stackability, but the reusability of content that allows us to grow. So yeah, I think it's more products in the market. It's definitely continuing to grow out the B2B strategy. And then in the B2C side of things, it's about how do we get the higher enrollments by sticking to our value propositions. It's all about the learner ROI. We know that's really all they care about. What am I going to get out of this degree? Is it going to get me a better job? Is it affordable? Does the ROI look good? Great. Let's double down on that and really try to grow enrollment on the B2C space as well.
What else do you want to say about EDGE, the experiential, digital, global education? I didn't get it right the first time, but I think I got it right that time. What else do you want to say? Open mic, plug away, anything that you want to add for the audience about EDGE.
Stay ahead of the conversation in higher ed. Get early, ad-free access, and exclusive leadership content by supporting Elvin and Joe. $5.99 per month or $44.99 a year. You can also donate or gift a subscription at edupexperience.com. That's edupexperience.com.
The only thing I'd say about EDGE is, a lot of what we've talked about here today, we are dedicated to domestic working professionals, and that's kind of our remit within the institution. The lifelong learning, the connection to employers, the graduate space online, stackability, performance-based admissions. We want to do all the fun stuff, the stuff that's not your traditional higher education experience for learners, because while we all probably had a great time in our undergraduate degrees, that was probably a little while ago for the working professional, and what they need now and how they expect that process to look needs to be different. And what I want to provide is the most seamless access to that skills-based education that is going to give somebody a leg up. So something as simple as at the institution coming up with this digital upskilling hub of grad certs was an easy pitch and something everybody could get excited about, because it's like, yeah, we have all these alumni. They have tuition reimbursement dollars. We have this content available. How do we connect the three parts of that triangle together? And there's normally a productized and strategy way to do it. So what we try to do in EDGE is stay current, stay up to date, and then the quality has to be great. And, I've said it many times here today. I'm sitting in this awesome studio. We're doing all these things because nobody wants to watch a poor quality course. Nobody wants to click through voice over PowerPoint. We all have to do that with compliance training at work. Education should not feel like compliance training at work. It should feel like something you can be excited about and get, jazzed to log into every day, and you want to learn what's next. And the only way to do that is by providing quality, not only in the video content and the way that the course is structured, but even to the assessment and what we try to get out of it in terms of learning outcomes.
Yeah, I love it. I love that you talk about that, the seamless or frictionless, if you want to say frictionless. That's what we expect, not only as learners, as human beings. I mean, and I've used these examples on the podcast many times. Your Uber shows up. We have a skip intro button on our favorite Netflix show because you can't even wait the 45 seconds for the intro, right? We skip it because we expect a certain amount of command now, because everything we do can be done from the palm of our hand. So we want to control some of the process as a consumer. So how do you make it easy? How do you make it accessible? How can I prove that I can do it without having to go through these other traditional ways of proving that? And how do I get an experience, to your point, that's different? It sounds like it's happening at EDGE. Do we use it as a verb? EDGE is like you go to how do you use it?
Yeah, so I mean, EDGE normally is a pretty internalized term at the university. We do say that we'll edgeify things within the university, which normally means that we'll take it and give it a better digital look and a face. But I think it's important that learners know, even though it might be an EDGE managed degree program, you're still getting a business degree, or you're still getting an engineering degree. You're still getting taught by the best faculty in the world. We're in the backgrounds as EDGE, just kind of making all the pieces go together. We have the experience with at-scale education, and that's something that we really bring that's unique. So within the university, it's definitely edgeifying things and used as a verb. Outside, we don't really talk much about EDGE because it's more about, hey, this is the program you're in. You should feel some affinity to being a DeMoore McKim student or being a College of Engineering student, whatever it might be.
Well, there you have it, everybody. He's my guest today. No, he is your guest today, and he had a lot to say that I think you have some good takeaways with you to look at your graduate education programs. He's Rob Towner. He's the Associate Vice President at EDGE at Northeastern University. Rob, thanks for being here, man. I appreciate the insights and the enthusiasm with which you deliver education to adult students. I think it takes this level of passion to serve adults, and I'm always happy to see it.
Thanks, Joe, and thanks to all the listeners. I mean, I hope there's at least a few new ideas or a different way to look at things that were brought up here today in the conversation that gets the wheels turning, and who knows what you might be able to go out there and do with that next.
There you have it, everybody. You've just EdUp'd.